Alright class, now let's try to continue our discussion today. I'm so sorry I'm not able to come to your class, but I try to tell you about this technique of data collection today before I'm leaving to Taxia. Alright, you can see on your slide here the title, of course, the technique of data collection. Alright, we got it now. Now please everyone, now listen carefully. We try to discuss all together about the technique of data collections, of course in terms of experimental research or in quantitative research. Alright, mostly technique of the data collections are constructed in terms of survey, here survey or questionnaires actually. The second is using tests. The third is using interviews, and the fourth is using observation. These are the common techniques in quantitative research. Most of my students, they like to use survey or questionnaires and tests. Rarely do they use interviews and observations because these two terms of the technique of data collections are closely related to the qualitative research. So today's dialogue, you may focus on your analysis on understanding about the survey or questionnaires and the tests. Actually, what the test or survey useful or suitable for what? You can see here in the bigger circle here that these 1, 2, 3, and 4 technique have their own condition, their own characteristic for getting the data. Take for example, for number 1, the survey itself. Survey is mostly suitable for measuring, assessing, or evaluating respondent opinions, perception, respondent motivation. Take for example student motivation, learning motivation, and so on. While the test, of course, everyone knows it very well. I'm sorry. Yes, test usually deals with language skill. So take for example, if you want to assess your students' listening skill, then you have to do with testing. So test is your technique for data collections. And then interviews and observation, you can read by yourself here that interviews is used to get the students or teachers or your respondent opinion and perception toward other technique or toward the other thing that you want to observe, of course. And the observation is mainly dealing with classroom observations or direct observation on your class or in your learning context. Well, now what goes next? The next is we are talking about the instrument here. I'm sorry. We are talking about the instrument. So after you decide to use which one of these technique of data collections, then you have to construct the instrument, I mean. So first of all, you have to think what is the aim of your research. What is the research questions that you have for your thesis? After you know your research questions, then you go to decide what kind of the technique of the data collection, and you have to start reading about the procedures, how to conduct the technique. Take for example here, you can see the research questions is about is the use of movie maker effective in motivating student learning in the English classroom. Take for example is like that. Then if you want to know about students learning motivation, then you have to read more articles, more theories about what motivation is. And then from that reading you can know the indicators of good motivation. After you know the indicators, then you combine your indicators into questions or statement. After you develop your questions or statement, you write down there in your instrument, then you have to try it out first. What for, sir? We're trying it out. Trying out is very important to check the instrument's validity. So in terms of quantitative research, you can do validity testing by employing your statistic analysis. And after you are sure that your instruments are valid, then you can use them for getting the data. Yeah. You can use it for pre-test and post-test, or you may opt the post-test only. Alright, I think it is very short explanation, but hopefully this is very useful for you because of my absence. But you may raise your question and comments through your Edmodo learning platform. You just write them out in your account or publish in the wall, then we can discuss directly after my coming. Alright, here I also entail with the explanation that all the questions here, all the statements in the instruments must be written in closed questions, in closed statement. Closed statement, what does it mean? Closed statement is in contrast to the open questions. Take for example, closed question here. When you want to assess the teaching strategies, you can use, for example, the question number 1. The teacher is able to provoke us to use English. Yeah. Then your respondent or your students will opt strongly agree, agree, not decided, disagree, strongly disagree. In terms of statistic, you can put the score later on. Strongly agree with 5, for example, agree 4, not decided 3, disagree 2, strongly disagree 1. Then later on, another step, you can calculate the central tendency and doing analysis further in terms of your statistic analysis. Alright, closed questions in simple way you can contrast to open question. Take for example, open question opens for other responses. For example, how the teacher provoke you in the classroom. So the answers will be various. Various answers are coming. Alright, thank you for your attention and thank you.